In the Tour of Britain, you can have 6 riders in a team. Of those 6, most teams have a team leader, someone who has the best chance of doing well. Perhaps they have a good chance at the yellow jersey, but maybe their speciality is sprinting. Or perhaps they are a grimpeur. Like a lot of the words used in cycling, it's a French word which means a rider who's good at climbing the hills and who attacks when the road is steepest. A rider like that is likely to be aiming to win the King of the Mountains. So what the other 5 riders do is help to make that best chance even better. In cycling, there's a special word for riders who are supporting their team leader like that. It's another French word, domestique, which in English translates as servant. So riders who are domestiques are serving their team leader, or helping him in every way they can to keep him in with a chance of doing well. What kind of things can they do to help? Well, the riders generally keep up an average speed of about 40 kilometres or 25 miles per hour. Perhaps you don't think that sounds fast. But don't forget, averages are made up of both lowest and highest, so often they're going much faster than that. And if you ever get to go on an exercise bike with a speedometer and a mileometer on it, try getting up to 40 kph or 25 mph and see how long you can keep it up. And then remember that the cycle racers keep it up for between 4 and 5 hours a day. So obviously they're using a lot of energy and doing a lot of sweating. That means they get pretty hungry and thirsty during the race. They carry drink in bidons or water bottles, and both the drinks and food are passed to the riders by team staff known as soigneurs in small cotton bags called musettes. They stand at the side of the road in stretches that are marked out as official feed station areas and hold the musettes out ready for one of the domestiques to grab as they go past. They do this without stopping and then pick up extra speed to distribute them to the team leader and to the other team riders. If they miss the grab, sometimes another rider or even one of the team cars who follow the peloton will collect the musettes and hurry them forward to where they're needed. When they're given their musettes by the domestique, the other riders will transfer the bidons into the special holders attached to their bikes and the food into the pouches that they all have on the back of their jerseys, so they can then get to them whenever they want as they ride along. Another thing a domestique can do is protect the team leader if there's a side wind or a headwind, by riding alongside him or in front of him and taking the brunt of it. When the first domestique needs a rest from this, another will move up and take over that task. In the most dramatic cases, if the team leader has a crash or a puncture or some other mechanical problem, a domestique will give him his own bike. So he may not finish the stage himself, but he will have helped his team leader to do so. So even though a domestique may never win a stage or a classification or the overall race, he's nonetheless absolutely crucial to the chances of his team members in doing those things. Now, we've already had a lot of French words, but here are some more. The peloton is the main bunch of riders in the race. There are advantages to being there because the riders save energy riding as a group. That's because riding close to each other means there's less drag. However, if a group of riders break away from the main peloton, that's known as an échappée. In English, that translates as escape. Even though the riders in the breakaway may all be from different teams, you'll see them cooperating with each other to keep that breakaway going, which they do by taking turns at drafting, or following the rider in front as closely as possible, also known as slipstreaming. For example, say there are 3 riders in the breakaway. You'll see them all riding in a line, riding one behind the other. At some point, you'll see the leading rider give a little sideways flick of his elbow. That's the signal that the next rider should take his turn at the front, while the first rider then drops to the back of the queue. When rider 2's had enough, he'll flick his elbow and rider 3 will take a turn. And after that it'll be the turn of rider 1 again. That way they share the hard work, even though they're not always all in the same team. But they do it because it increases the chances of all of them for scoring points in the sprints or King of the Mountains, if they can keep the gap between themselves and the peloton wide enough. Sometimes a rider from the peloton will decide he wants to try to leave the peloton and put on extra speed to race ahead of the bunch until he can join the breakaway. If he succeeds, that's known as bridging. If a rider in a breakaway doesn't take his turn doing work at the front, that's called sitting on, and it doesn't make him very popular with his fellow riders, even if he's doing it because he's following team orders. So, cycle road racing really isn't about every individual trying to be the first to the line after all. It's much more complicated than that, as we've seen. It's all about teamwork, not just within your own team, but also often working together with riders from other teams, all so as to increase the chances of one of your team winning one of the race classifications, or a whole stage, or best of all, winning the whole Tour of Britain.